In the events, we had our own in-house reporters also in the field today, and you were among the reporters that faced the brutality of men in uniform. Can you kindly recount for us what transpired today and what you think triggered this brutality by men in uniform?
Certainly. I'm not one of those other people that can certainly account for that, but then I'll get to that in just a bit. Woke up, an ordinary day, deployments done. We were assigned to cover FDC candidate Sadat Muchibi, who was voting from Matero, that is in Kazolugoba. We followed him up there, and then he didn't vote from that, so we had to move from that particular polling station, having given morning live links from to NBS Television and Sanyuka respectively. We now moved on to that polling station in Kazo, Angola. Immediately when we had just arrived, Hassan Waswa, who also is a veteran video journalist that also covers Parliament, was my videographer this morning. So he was filming that sequence where Kayemba Solo was being mugged into a drone brutally, and that is the point at which the policeman descended onto him, gave him a very heavy slap on his head, and then took off with the camera and the live unit. Now that meant that we were not broadcasting anymore. Shortly after that, I was standing with Spark TV's Sharifana Mvuma, and then another journalist. So all those were also beaten while they tried to film the sequence of Hassan Waswa being beaten. So they also received some strokes of cane on the hands, and then her camera lens, she should have told you, it's all shattered. We remained there for just a few minutes until Raymond Tamale, Abubakar Lubowa, Kabugo, David Ijo, Francis Isano joined us. When they joined us, then we spent a few more minutes trying to collect interviews, trying to talk to people. That is when the policemen, not actually policemen, security operatives returned. And then I could look at police being heavily helpless. I could sympathize with them because they couldn't do so much. I could look at DPC Nanoka looking and trying to constrain them from reaching us. But then they beat the journalists up, so I was in just a distance, because when I saw them coming, I ran off, telling them, guys, let's run off. Let's run away. These people are here to beat us. So they beat my colleagues right in front of my watchful eyes, and I couldn't save them. I saw them wailing in pain and falling down, and couldn't do so much, because then we put on press jackets and have our IDs just as a protective measure, as a safety measure, to ensure we're not beaten. This time round, that could get you beaten. Actually, the citizens or the voters were telling us, get off the jacket, get off the ID.
So what is supposed to identify you as a journalist is actually getting you brutalized.
Certainly. So it makes you a proper target. And I was looking at the videos and everyone trying to say, yes, good that now journalists are getting a fair brunt of the beating. And I was like, I don't think it's good for anyone to portray Shannon Fader in such a situation, because my own people were beaten right in front of my watchful eyes, and I couldn't do so much. So I could shelter at a particular shop, hidden there for a few more moments, and then when I got out, because we are now being evacuated, that is the point at which they came looking for me, and they could speak out my name, Hakim Wampamba. They beat me well. I have bruises all over my back, and then I just sped off. I just jumped onto a speeding border, and it just whisked me away to station. I got to know the name of my savior as James Sonduri later on, and I think he is my hero tonight.
And you see, from where you're standing, and you're telling me that police officers were vulnerable, standing, the men were supposed to keep law and order, were watching you as other men in uniform were brutalizing journalists. You've been in the field for quite some time. How do you take this as a journalist? Because if these people countlessly doing this, and they're not penalized, and we have police looking at them vulnerable. What do you think this means for us as journalists?
It certainly spells doom. It speaks to a state that has largely lost its soul, and it needs to do a lot of soul searching. It speaks to military that is way above the police. It speaks to a state that has the military that is not subservient to civilian rule. It speaks to the darkest parts or the darkest chapters of our very own country, and we should say it speaks to the breakdown in systems, and not everyone should really like where we are. And I think this is the moment that is very, very crucial for journalism, because we need to still shine a light and hold a lantern for people to be able to see. We need to really, really speak to so much of this, because I think this comes at a point where everyone really needs to question themselves as to whether this is the sort of country that we want to bequeath to our grandchildren. And if they are leaders, they should be really awake and they should really be watching. This is a very defining moment for our country. We do not need to write the darkest chapters of our nation at this moment.
Thank you so much, Hakim Wampamba. Now, here with me in studio is Hakim Wampamba, a reporter with NBS, recounting what exactly happened today. Remember, a number of journalists were also assaulted. We had journalists from Salt TV, we had journalists from NMG, and recently we had a journalist from Top TV. Now, still about this development, a day after Nation Media Group camera person Stephen Chiwika was assaulted on duty, today a group of journalists, like we've said, have also been covering the Kawempe North by-election, and these were assaulted, arrested, and